Hey everyone, welcome to Almost 30. It's Lindsay, and this is a solo ep, so I am opening up this episode. Probably not with a song and dance, but it's just me. I'm so happy you're here, so grateful you're here. If you're new to Almost 30, whoo, welcome. No idea how you found us, but I'm super grateful you did. And I can imagine you are a deeply curious human being wanting to know more about yourself and the world around you and deepen your relationships and feel more on purpose. And we see you. We've been there, we're there. Always kind of going through it. But hey, if we're not enjoying the process, then what the heck is the point? So we hope to really bring a lot of joy and clarity and insight as you are in your process. And hopefully you feel less alone. To learn more about what we're doing over at Almost 30, you can go to almost30.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, all the places. It's at Almost 30 Podcast. And I'm at Lindsay Simsek on Instagram. I'm super excited to talk to you all today in this solo episode about clearing conversations, what they are, when you need to have them, and how to have them. And I'm going to go into it in a moment, into the actual episode. But, my intention in sharing any solo episode is coming to you from a more processed place. There was a time in which I didn't know how to have a clearing conversation at all. Um, and it was super funky, and I would be totally out of my body, when approaching what I would call back then as hard conversations. And as an adult, as a woman who is the ripe age of 35, um, I'm realizing that my relationships require clearing conversations um, as regular maintenance and as regular up leveling. So, my intention in creating an episode around this is that we can normalize this. This can become a normal part of our relationships that mean a lot to us, whether it's family, friendship, maybe business partner. Um, Maybe it's your actual romantic partner, right? These are important ways to keep the space between you as clean and clear and full of love as possible. So, I'm not going to talk anymore. You're going to go right into the episode. Enjoy this one. And again, if you want to chat about this, DM me, share it on Instagram. And if you love this episode or any other episode from Almost 30, be sure to share it with a friend. That means so much. Okay. Enjoy this one, and I'll see you on the other side. Y'all don't even know. My home smells like fall heaven around here. I am diffusing the fall blends from Sage. If you haven't heard about Sage, we've been fans for years and we've partnered quite a bit in the life of the podcast, and for good reason. Sage is an incredible wellness brand. They've been making incredible wellness blends, natural plant-based personal care products for over 30 years. And they are very well known for their diffusers and diffusing oils. So the three that I'm dying for, the wild fir, chai, and cedar ember. I know you can almost smell it when I say it. My favorite is probably the wild fir. I actually diffuse this not only in the fall, but also the winter. Just gives me that vibe. It's like a deep breath of fresh forest air. It's woodsy, it's earthy, it's beautiful. And anytime I smell it, I'm just put at ease. You know what I mean? Which is great during the holiday season. These make incredible gifts. I have never, ever, ever given this to someone and then been like, wait, what? They're always like, oh my God, I've been wanting a diffuser. It's just such a lovely addition to a home. You can put it in any room, truly, your bedroom, your bathroom, your living room. I mean, hey, get more than one. I have more than one. Sage also has the Aroma Wander, which is actually a portable diffuser. Okay. So if you're traveling, maybe you want to put it in your hotel room, maybe bring it in the car. I don't know. It's unbelievable, cordless and rechargeable. It'll mist for 3 hours or 6 hours intermittently. It has a USB compatible charging cable. It's so cool, so chic. And I love diffusing my favorite oils when I'm on the road. It just makes it feel like home. So if you'd like to try Sage, they have beautiful, beautiful home products, skincare, body care, and they have some great gift sets for people that you want to, just check off your list on your Christmas list. So, as a thank you for listening to Almost 30, Sage is offering everyone a discount to help them top up on their wellness routine. Use code almost 30 at checkout to receive 20% off your purchase when you go to sage.com, SAJE.com. Use the code almost 30 for 20% off your purchase. Again, that's SAJE.com, sage.com. Use the code almost 30 at checkout to receive 20% off your purchase. Not sure if you know this, but 1 out of 8 couples struggle with infertility. It's kind of staggering. Most people don't know and or aren't ready to talk about it. And the thing is, we really need good data and information about our bodies in order to have informed conversations with our doctors and make the best decisions for ourselves and for our future. Sometimes we can be so lost in the shame of it all that we forget to really take action and figure out our best options. And that's why modern fertility was created. I've been having fertility conversations with a lot of you in my DMs, so I'm excited to talk about modern fertility. It's an easy and affordable way to test your fertility hormones at home. Major, with a simple finger prick. You mail it in with a prepaid label, and you'll get personalized results within 6 business days, okay? And you'll get insight into your hormone levels, like your ovarian reserve, aka if you have more or fewer eggs than average for your age, and other important factors that can impact your fertility. The results really go deep into what every hormone means, and you could also download the results to review with your doctor for next steps. Just to give you a sense, traditional hormone testing at a fertility clinic can cost over $600, but Modern Fertility tests the same general set of hormones at a fraction of the price. And if you go to modernfertility.com/almost30, you can get $30 off your test. Plus, you can get reimbursed for the test through your FSA, HSA. If you want kids today or maybe one day in the future, clinically sound info about your body can help you make that decision that's right for you. So right now, Modern Fertility is offering our listeners $30 off the test when you go to modernfertility.com/almost30. This is limited time, so take advantage now. That means your test will cost $149, which is really, really great. Hormone testing at a fertility clinic, again, can cost 3 times as much. Get $30 off your fertility test when you go to modernfertility.com/almost30. That's modernfertility.com/almost30. Hi, everyone. It's Linz. Welcome to another solo. I'm happy you're here. And the conversation today is one that was inspired by a recent conversation I had with Krista. And she actually gave me this idea to do a solo on clearing conversations. So I don't think this is like a term that we necessarily know of universally. However, when I say a clearing conversation, I'm sure you feel the meaning of it and what this perhaps um, could mean for you in your relationships. But Krista and I had a clearing conversation recently. We've had, I would say, more than one in our almost 7 year friendship. And I've understood them to be an integral part of being in a relationship that you want to grow within, grow through. And it's not something I'm always excited to do, to be very honest. Sometimes I resist the hard, especially when it comes to intimate relationships. But as I've gotten older, I've understood it to be an absolute necessity in your intimate relationships, or else they just don't work. So, in this episode today, I want to talk about um, what a clearing conversation is exactly. I want to give you an analogy that I feel like really helps you to feel and really energetically see the power of a clearing conversation. And then I want to talk about when you should have one. So, giving you kind of specific scenarios in which you can perhaps apply to your life and identify when a clearing conversation would be appropriate. And then I want to close with how to have a clearing conversation. And again, this is from my own experience. You can always, sprinkle your own seasoning on it and make it your flavor. But I feel like this is going to become a universal um, tool in our relationships, at least in this community. Let's make it viral. So, I believe that the earlier that you can learn this, the better. So, if you're listening to this and you are in your early, mid, even late 20s, y'all get on board. So important to learn how to have these conversations early because I find I'm at 35 and it's kind of hard. There's a lot of mental resistance that comes up when I am nudged to have a clearing conversation. Past me might have called these conversations hard conversations, but we are being very intentional with our words and we're now calling them clearing conversations. Because really, I want to be in relationships where I can be wholly who I am at all times, you know? And a clearing conversation really allows for that to happen consistently. So, what is it? My definition: a clearing conversation is a dialogue had with someone you are in relationship with, whether it's a friend, family, partner, business partner, maybe it's your kid's babysitter, maybe it's your coach. Fill in the blank, but there's a relationship there, not just kind of a transient in passing, like person on the street that cuts you off, right? We're not going to have a clearing conversation with that person. There's not necessarily a history or foundation there. Um, and it's a conversation where the intention is to share truth from the heart, listen from the heart, and clear any distortions in the relationship field. One more time. A clearing conversation is a dialogue had with someone you're in a relationship with, where the intention is to share truth from the heart, listen with the heart, and clear any distortions in your relationship field. You can kind of pick up on what that distorted energy feels like. Perhaps you have a relationship right now where there's a bit of residue in the field, maybe things unsaid, perhaps some things unprocessed, perhaps some projections happening. So we can kind of feel into what that is, right? We don't need to um, overanalyze it or put too many words to it, but you can feel it, right? Um, and I said, clearing any distortions in the relationship field. And I feel like the field is an incredible analogy that I want to bring in. Oftentimes, I'm definitely a visual learner. I like to see in order to understand better, not always possible. But this analogy kind of helped me to understand the power of a clearing conversation. Imagine yourself in the woods, right? In the woods, and in the woods where the trees are incredibly tall and old. So the canopies are kind of far reaching and they create this cover from the sun. It's a little bit darker than perhaps, the regular daylight. There's a lot of, fauna and there's a lot of vines and maybe moss and there's mud and dirt and maybe there's some trees that have fallen down and are blocking the path and perhaps there's streams, perhaps there are different habitats of animals, lots going on, right? Beautiful, but lots going on. And at times, it's not always very clear, like where we're going, which way is north, east, south, and west. Um, There could be some things that you can't really identify what they are because it's a little bit darker and maybe you haven't been in this part of the forest before. But all of a sudden, you start to see this light poking through the tree line up ahead. And so you begin walking towards the light, and the beam of light coming from the sun into the forest feels like it's like a mile long. It's beautiful. You can kind of see like particles kind of dancing in the light, right? And we're walking towards the light, we're walking towards the light, and all of a sudden, as if it's like a wall and you step on the other side of a wall, you step out into what is now not the forest, and it is a clearing. It is a field. And this field has less going on. It is a field of beautiful, green, vibrant grass. It comes up to maybe your ankles. So you're really able to see incredibly far. You can see the horizon, in fact, and you can turn around 360 degrees and really feel safe and secure. You can really feel safe and secure turning around 360 degrees because you can see what's around you, what's going on. You have better clarity of where you are and your place in all of it. And oftentimes this type of field is called a clearing. And so I want you to hold that image for yourself when we're talking about clearing conversations. I don't know if that visual was helpful to you, but if it was, let's tap into how you felt in that clearing. Oh, like a nice deep breath, cool grass underneath your bare feet, nice warm sun on your skin, right? There's a contentment. It might not be perfect, but there's a contentment and a security. And so these are some of the feelings that I would like to feel in friendship, in relationship with my family, with my partner, most of the time. I know that's not realistic for all of the time, and that's okay. And it's also normal. um, but I do want us to have a sense of when it gets a bit, um, yeah, it just gets a bit dim and fuzzy, and you can't quite make out what's going on or what's being said, or, and using that visual as a cue, like, ah, you know what? It's time. It's time to have a clearing conversation. We're going to step out into the field. Okay, come on with me. Right? So, when should you have a clearing conversation? So I'm going to list some just examples, and then I'm going to give you an example of when Krista and I felt like it was time to have a clearing conversation. If you're feeling clouded in mind, body, or spirit by distortions, projections, or misunderstandings in a relationship, and they might not be blatant, right? This could be very nuanced, but the fact that you feel them and it's affecting you, mind, body, and or spirit, it's really important that we shine a light on it and we have a conversation about it if this is a relationship that means something to you. Or perhaps you've changed a lot. Perhaps you've changed a lot. And for example, maybe you live in another city than the members of your family. Maybe you see them a few times a year on holidays, but they're really not getting the day to day. And you feel like every time you go home, they are interacting with you and treating you and communicating with you as if you are the person you were. Does that make sense? So, as if you're past you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, child you, even. Sometimes that happens. And so a clearing conversation would be really helpful in reintroducing yourself. Who are you today? Who are you today? It's really, really powerful. I think most of us need to do that at some point. I don't know if most of us do it. But it's really, really important so that we can upgrade our relationships. Like our relationships deserve this. Our relationships deserve the system update, I like to call it. Perhaps you need a clearing conversation to interrupt a pattern in relationship. Oh, our relationships are riddled with patterns. Let's think about our parents, right? Our relationship with our parents. I'm sure we can observe patterns in their relationship, but let's think about the relationship patterns we have with our parents. Um, Perhaps you are always the one that your parents go to as the in between. It's the in between when they're kind of talking shit about each other, or perhaps you are the one for your parent um, who always just like laughs at their inappropriate jokes and is an enabler with their destructive behavior, whatever that might be, right? Because you don't want to, call them out, maybe make them look at what they're doing, saying, and you don't want them to feel uncomfortable or sad or embarrassed, right? So that's a pattern. So using a clearing conversation to disrupt a pattern and really create a clean slate can be so, so powerful. Because oftentimes people don't know they're running on patterns. And so if we can really just bring that to the surface and say, hey, I noticed this is our pattern. I'm curious if you experience that as well. And I would love to talk about like how we can create, a new way of being in relationship together because I think we deserve it. I feel like we're operating on an old way of being that's really not up to date, right? Another reason why you would have a clearing conversation, perhaps you have emotions that have been processed on your own that you'd like to share with someone. Um, Maybe it has to do with them, maybe it doesn't. But I do feel like being vulnerable in that way after having processed emotions is a way of clearing energy in a relationship. Because if you're in a relationship with someone and it's a relationship where you're close, you have some sort of foundation, they're going to pick up on when, you have not necessarily opened up about something that happened in your life or what you might be going through. And not to say you have to, but there's going to be an energy that's just kind of floating. That is. And the energy is that you're going through something and there might be shame, pain, anger, or all of the above. And so using that conversation of like, hey, either this is what I went through and this is how I felt, this is how I feel now, or even if you are in the midst of processing, that's okay too. However, I'd love for you to process with a therapist, maybe journaling, um, you know, pre- preferably a professional that you trust before going to a clearing conversation because I've been in situations where either myself or someone else has been unprocessed and has just dumped. And my pattern is to go into like therapist mode. And that's not really my job, nor am I qualified, nor is that really what I want to do and nor is it what that person really needs, and nor is it clearing. When you dump, you're actually adding more to the field and it's like very unprocessed. You can't really ground yourself in what you're sharing. So that's why I recommend processing most, right? Even if you're still kind of going through it, processing most and coming to a place where you're like, you know what? I feel grounded enough to share with my, say, friend about what I'm going through. And I feel grounded enough in this clearing conversation to ask for what I need, right? because that allows the field to be clear for your friend as well to show up as, say, just a great listener. Or maybe you do need advice or a what would you do situation, right? But I think that really establishes a beautiful, clear way of communicating, clearing the field, and then being able to continue your process, but having that support system in a way that's like very, very strong, very, very strong. So the example that inspired this episode that Krista was like, you should do an episode on having a clearing conversation. So Krista and I, in the nature of our work together, I feel like we just we're evolving rapidly, and I'm not saying that as a brag because I feel like we're all kind of evolving pretty rapidly. But I think within our friendship, we are. And so, what that means is that so much is moving fast. We're growing. We are hitting certain milestones in our lives. We're hitting certain like intense challenges along the way, obviously for a deeper purpose. We know that, but it's just, it feels so rapid at times. And so recently we had a clearing conversation um, because we both felt as though there was so much that was unsaid. There was so much that was unsaid, not only because we needed time to individually process and understand what was coming up around the business, around our relationship, around our own personal lives, and really um, what we want and where we're going. Um, but also, it was felt, we would feel kind of the residue. Um, and it's so energetic, it's crazy. I'm sure you felt this with someone in your life before where, we'll be kind of doing the day to day and it's real busy. We're going a mile a minute, lots going on, but we're kind of not synced. There's something a bit out of sync. And often I find that when there are things unsaid and uncommunicated and energy that is being um, misdirected either at the other person or just injected into the experience that we're having together, it can be really uncomfortable. And so, because we're on a separate coasts now, we're not having the day to day and we're not having the day to day in-person interaction and ability to pick up on these things in a timely manner. So, when I was in LA recently, we went on a walk to have a conversation, and we love walks. I'll get into why in a moment, but you know, it was really imperative that we came to this conversation ready and willing to express our truth and ready and willing to listen, ready and willing to take responsibility for what we're bringing to this conversation and also just to the whole experience, and ready and willing to like forgive ourselves and forgive the other, you know? Um, and we felt so much better after this conversation. I'm not going to give you the tea on the conversation, okay? But we felt so much better. And to be honest, like, and I'm sure she felt similar, but you get nervous before these conversations. I'm someone who I do shy away from that hard conversation, right? I do shy away from saying how I really feel because I'm afraid that the other person isn't going to take it right or is going to judge me or is going to experience me differently and not love me as much as they did, right? So I just have a lot of fears around it, which I'm, looking at more recently because if I really love this person, like it's not a loving act to hold back how you feel and who you are. It really isn't. So Krista's been like the person in my life that I have a couple of these, but it's like very few where we practice. Like we're in the arena with each other. We practice this with each other and it's hard. And we've had coaches support us and we've been in therapy. Like it can be so intense, but y'all, it's so worth it. It's really, really worth it. At the end of the day, you're two human beings coming together and like kind of just showing each other your heart. And it can get a little oozy goozy. And at the end, you just feel so much lighter, so much lighter. You've taken off your armor. You definitely have a new perspective on what's been happening and what the other person's experience is. And it just gives you more of that 360 view feeling. Like when you're in the field, the sun's shining and the cool grass is underneath your feet. You look around, you're like, oh, yeah, I can see it all. Okay, cool. I've tried many deodorants. Both Kristen and I have tried many deodorants, and Native is our favorite. So I just love this product. It's thoughtfully formulated. It just keeps me smelling fresh all day long. And their ingredients, yo, they tell you what's in it. They have ingredients like coconut oil, shea butter, and baking soda. It just checks all the boxes for me, plus smooth application. Love the coconut vanilla. That's my number one. But if you're someone who is looking for a clean deodorant, this one's for you. It's time to make this switch. If you've been using an antiperspirant that has aluminum in it, we got to switch. We got to switch to the natural. Native is it. When you go to nativedeo.com/almost 30, I want you to peruse the site because you're going to see a lot of scents that might tickle your fancy. I would get a few. I keep one in my bathroom, keep one in my purse, and I keep one in the car. This is a nice little trick for you. You're going to get 20% off your first order by going to nativedeo.com/almost 30, or you can use the promo code almost 30 at checkout. That's nativedeo.com/almost 30, or you can use the promo code almost 30 at checkout. You're going to get 20% off. A staple in my routine. Okay. Athletic Greens has been something that I've taken for about 3.5 years now. Every single day, I mix it with cold water. And this is really my insurance to fill in the nutritional gaps within my daily nutrition. And I know a lot of you out there are like, oh my God, what should I take? I have so many pills, so many this, so many that. This is one scoop. This is a powder, easy to mix in with cold water or into your smoothie. And you are making sure that you are getting incredible, high quality, bioavailable vitamins, including a multivitamin, multimineral, probiotic, greens, superfood blend, and more. And again, one freaking scoop. It's pretty miraculous. They've done an incredible job over there at Athletic Greens. They are sourcing so many of their ingredients from New Zealand, and the quality is tip top. So if you are wanting to improve your focus, your gut health and digestion, if you want to support your immune system and being super, super healthy, I highly recommend Athletic Greens. Krista and I are super fans. We shout it everywhere we go. So we're going to give you a gift per use. Athletic Greens is very generous. And with your purchase, you're going to get a free 1 year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. These travel packs I bring with me everywhere. Go to athleticgreens.com/almost 30 today. athleticgreens.com/almost 30 to take control of your health. Give AG1 a try. It's incredible. And you'll get a free 1 year supply of vitamin D. Most of us are deficient in vitamin D. This is a vitamin that we need to be getting enough of. And you'll get 5 free travel packs. athleticgreens.com/almost 30. So let's talk about the how. How do we have a clearing conversation? It's pretty tactical. Again, you can kind of sprinkle your own seasoning, making your own flavor. I want you to come to this conversation at least 90% processed. Okay. Therapy, journaling, meditation, emotional clearing. Maybe you are just letting it rip. Okay. I know I'm speaking to it lightly, but I know it's not always light. I know it can be incredibly heavy. I just caution you against bringing the very height of the emotion that you're processing to this conversation. Because our emotions, as we know, can take us on a crazy ride. And while they are so purposeful and beautiful, sometimes we can just get lost. We can start like drowning in our own emotions. And with these clearing conversations, I want you to be at a bit more grounded place. So if you need time before the conversation, like weeks, like months, okay, take time to process so that you have a bit more of an anchor in this conversation. So you understand a bit more of like, you know what? This is why I've been feeling this way, or this is why I've been telling myself this story about you. Really important because we want to be using that I language, which is something I'll talk about in a moment. Um, Setting an intention is really important before you even reach out. Setting an intention about this conversation, why you want to have this conversation, how you want to feel. Um, can't necessarily control how you want the other person to feel, but you know, how you want the overall energetic signature to be of this conversation. Just get really juicy with this intention. I want you to write it down. I want you to say it out loud. I want you to say it out loud almost like a declaration. And then when you're ready, when you're 90% processed and you've set your intention, I want you to reach out to this person. Um, I always recommend like calling on the phone, um, or leaving a voice note, sending a little voice note, or you just call them like directly rather than leaving a message. Like you can definitely call direct, have them answer, have a just short, brief, like, I've been picking up on, you know, just just something that's a little bit out of whack with us. And it's really important to me that, we have a conversation. I'm not sure what's going to come up, but my intention is to, clear what might be in the air between us. And I'm excited to just be really like honest and open and my hope is that this will like up level our relationship. Okay, that was a lot. I know. And you're like, I can't say that. That's too. The point is I want you to use I. I want you to use I. Not, you've been really like off lately and I want to know why. And is there anything I can do? It's like, no, I've been feeling and it's really, important to me because you're important to me. And I want to hopefully share my heart and I would love for you to share yours. Um, and if you have space, in the next few weeks, I'd love to make time to have this conversation, whether on the phone, FaceTime, or if we can meet in person, would love to like take a walk and chat. Which brings me to the next, which is we recommend. I'm going to say we because Krista and I always talk about this, but walking. So I found that movement when you're having these, more um, intimidating conversations, at least initially intimidating conversations, movement really helps you to remain in your body. If you're anything like me, and I feel like Krista has this as well, but there are times when I've had hard conversations where I completely leave my body. Like out. I'm out. And then my body starts to have physical reactions. I shake. I get really cold. I'll get incredibly emotional, like uncontrollably emotional. I will just feel very disconnected, very not present. So, walking really helps you to remain in your body. And honestly, it's helped me to remain in my heart. So, I'm not in my mind so much. So if you can walk outside and, have this conversation, I highly recommend. It also just like lightens the eye contact intensity. And I find that helps me to have clearer thoughts and like I can articulate better when I'm not like glued to someone's eyeballs. So we highly recommend walking or maybe maybe you invite a friend over to cook. You're like, "Hey, do you want to have a convo while we're like cooking some meatballs?" I know it sounds kind of crazy, but there is an art to this as well. And I'll refer to my acting days. Who knows? Are they over? We don't know. But I'll refer to my acting days when I would be in classes and they would have you do a little business while you are reading your lines. And by then you're like off book and you have things memorized and they'll give you a little business like, you know what, while you're reading this, having this dialogue with this person in the scene, I want you to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and make sure like you go through all the steps. Like it's toasted, like I want you to do all of that. Um and this business would really help to ground the actor in reality. And it would also just allow more authenticity to come through. Because oftentimes, when you're like memorizing something, and sometimes in these hard conversations, you're memorizing what you want to say. And then it comes out like that, and it feels robotic and weird and disconnected and not from your heart and only from your head. So, adding a bit of movement, something for the body to do, you know, is actually really, really powerful. And you might access parts of your experience and how you feel that you didn't plan on sharing, but that are so grounded and relevant and true. I also feel like adding a bit of movement and business, if you will, to this type of conversation allows you also to be a good listener. And I know it sounds counterintuitive because it's like, oh, but I'm doing both at once. It actually really attunes you to listen because there's something else going on. So say you're walking, you just got to like stay on the path and make sure you don't bump into people, but you're doing that naturally because that's something you can do naturally. But then you're really tuned into what the person's saying because there's some stuff going on around you. Whereas if you're in a quiet room, you're staring at each other and this person's talking to you, sometimes you start listening to the voice in your head instead of what the person's saying. Sometimes you're so busy worried about what you are going to say next and not about listening to the person and then moving and speaking from what they've shared and how it makes you feel or how you feel about it. So that's my recommendation. Take it or leave it, but try it on. It's powerful. So you're reaching out, you're recommending a walk. Um, Day of, or maybe the night before, I want you to envision how you'd like to feel in this conversation. See it as much through as you can. Maybe you hear what's being said. Maybe you see you're hugging this person. Maybe you see the auras of each of you in the conversation. Maybe you see images. Maybe you see bright light. Um, Maybe you sense emotions of just peace and calm and understanding and ahas. Like, I really want you to go there. So, whether that's you dropping into your meditation, or maybe you're in the shower and you just like let yourself daydream about this conversation. But I really want to flood your system with that possibility rather than the anxiety of, oh my God, this conversation is so nerve wracking. I just want to get it over with. What's going to happen? Are they going to freak out? Will I have a friend or family member or partner at the end of this? Like, oh my God. So let's flood our system with this special vision. Um, Try to activate as many senses as possible. Um, and do this as many times as you need. Maybe it's the night before, week before, morning of, maybe right before in the car before you get out to go on your walk. As many times as you need. I also recommend before having this conversation, maybe the night before, maybe morning of, is writing out like what's on your heart. And this is not to script it up, but it's really to get it out of your head and onto paper and just seeing it on paper, seeing the words that land. And maybe there are some that come out and you're like, you know what? That actually isn't true for me right now, but that's a word I've heard a lot. So I'm using it. So I don't want you to script it. I don't want you to edit yourself, but I do want you to write down what's on your heart and then read it out loud and yeah, just see how it lands with you. Just see how it lands. And I think what's true also is there are going to be points that you do want to hit, and that in the moment, it might be hard to grab them because you are required to be very present and listening. And so doing this writing down of, reading of, and then maybe writing down again is just helping it to be imprinted into your mind so that you can just kind of access it whenever, um, because it's been in a bit of a rotation. And sometimes it's in rotation for, a week after you've written it down, you've spoken it loud, and you're like, actually, that's not relevant anymore. That doesn't apply and doesn't feel true. And then you let it go. Well, what if that came out at the time because you had gone over it like once and you're like, oh man, that didn't sound true. So I think this is a really good way to, you know, keep yourself in the present moment and also allow that reservoir of, yeah, this is how I feel and this is how I feel it is accurately articulated, and you can just kind of pull from the reservoir. So it's the morning of or right before you go on this walk for a clearing conversation. I want you to breathe and pray. And prayer is, a conversation with, could be your soul, could be with God, could be with source, it could be with the universe, whatever you believe in, truly fill in the blank, breathe and pray. So I would love for you to take 3 to 5 deep belly breaths. And I want you to let out sound when you do it. It's going to sound something like, I feel like I've done this on episodes before. I'm sure you guys turn down the volume when that happens. But oh man, does it feel so freaking good? Feels so, so good. So 3 to 5 of those. And then return to a normal breath. And I want you to pray. Pray, pray. If you need to call it something else because prayer just, means something funky to you, fine, change it. But let's send up our intentions, our visions for this conversation. And at the end, I do want you to speak to the part of you that's a little bit nervous still and a little bit afraid. And I want you to hold that part of you. So energetically hold that part. Imagine that you're holding it and you're just kind of tucking it into your heart space and saying, you know what, no matter what happens in this conversation, I got you. You're doing great and you're going to be okay and you are loved and you are worthy of a conversation like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. What is required of you is to be wholly you, to be honest, to speak from your heart, to listen from your heart. That's what is required of you. And I'm here no matter what. I'm here to hold you on the other side. Okay. And then after your prayer, I just want you to let go. I want you to let go of what you need this to be. Let go of the intentions. Let go of it all. Let go of it all. All the things I told you to do. Let go. Let go. And we just kind of float into the walk. And I'm not going to tell you, exactly how to say everything and how to structure the conversation. Um, I love starting with a hug, that like body to body, just reassurance of, you know what? We're both so brave for having a conversation like this because our friendship or our relationship as family members or our relationship as partners means so much. And I just like honor that in you and I honor that in me. And you can just embrace, or maybe you shake hands in a way that really means something, whatever is appropriate. Um, but I find that to just lessen the armor that we kind of put up walking into conversations like this. And honestly, you can even say something like, you know what? I'm really proud of us for having a conversation like this. I have no idea what's going to happen here, but I just like want to pat ourselves on the back because this is super powerful. Maybe this is the first clearing conversation and you say that like, listen, it's not in every relationship that I'm having conversations like this and I'm just like so appreciative that we're both willing to do this. Right? Like how powerful and what a way to like open the door rather than starting with like door closed, knock knock, like, hey, knock knock, can I come in? This is really powerful way to, yeah, like disarm both ourselves and the other person. And then you're going to have your conversation. Remember to keep it in the I, really owning your responsibility and your part, um, and owning your own healing and growth and getting curious in the conversation, asking more questions than like affirmative statements or advice for the other person. Asking, getting curious, um, and allowing space. There might be spaces of silence in the conversation, and that's okay. That's okay. Remember to breathe. Remember to breathe. Walking helps to remind you to breathe because you're moving. So your body does need a bit more oxygen. So make sure you're breathing and make sure you're breathing before you speak. So sometimes you go "Ugh," right into it. But yeah, I'm really hearing what you're saying. Thank you for sharing that. And um, what I what I'm hearing you say is, and I'm feeling, right? Like there can be a more intentional cadence to how we share with one another. Um, so take what you need. Take that space, take that silence, take that breath. Maybe you take a break. Sometimes we need a break when we're having these conversations, and that's okay. And you might just say, like, "Hey, can I have 5 minutes? Like, I'm feeling this conversation, but I feel like I just need like just five. I'd love to go to the bathroom, take a drink of water, but let's meet back here in 5 minutes, right?" Like that's okay. You can absolutely ask for that. And so can the other person. Oh, clearing conversations. How are we doing? How are we doing? I I hope this has inspired you to have a clearing conversation if you feel it necessary in your own life with someone that you're in relationship with. I feel so strongly that this is a big part of our growth and evolution as human beings. I don't want to be stuck on autopilot in my relationships. I don't want to be dimming my light or turning down the volume on how I really feel in my relationships because our relationships deserve the truth in every aspect. Our relationships deserve the truth. And if we're holding back and we're avoiding, you know, slowly but surely, the vitality of the relationship will suffer and you will slip into autopilot and it will lose its essence and you might grow apart, or it might become a relationship that's a bit more burdensome than life giving. And so while this feels like work and it feels like something you kind of got to put a little juice into, yeah, it's true. And it's so worth it. It's so worth it. All right, y'all. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about having a clearing conversation, I am here for it. So is Krista, I'm sure. This was again inspired by our clearing conversations that we've had in our 7 year friendship. And she was the one that was like, you should do a solo episode on clearing conversations. So thank you, Krista, for being my, constant practice ground, for these things, safe space for these things. I love you. And I love all of you. I appreciate you supporting us always. And these solo episodes, I really enjoy hearing from you. So please DM me on Instagram at Lindsey Simcik, Simcik. I would love to chat. Make sure to tag me in anything that you're sharing about this episode or any other solo. And I will see you on the next one. Thank you so much for listening to another solo from me. If you enjoyed this one, if it resonated, if it really landed with you, or perhaps it just like opened the door and you have some questions, you can DM me on Instagram. You can share it on Instagram. You can also hop into our membership. We're opening up membership again in a couple months. And it's in there that we are having conversations like these and really bringing the possibility of using these tools, of using these modes of communication and up leveling to just make our experience here on earth just that much more fulfilling and that much better. So I love y'all. I appreciate you so, so, so much. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to Almost 30 Podcasts so you get all our new episodes right into your whatever app you're using for podcasts. And then subscribe to Morning Microdose. Why don't you? It's an incredible new show that we put out. It is out 5 days a week. And these are short microdoses of inspiration, laughs of insight. I think you're going to love it. We were really inspired to enhance your morning routine because our morning routines are so important to us. And instead of just popping up and scrolling on your phone, perhaps putting this in your ears to just make you feel more alive, more inspired, more connected, will just change the rest of your day. So, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Y'all are the best, and I'll see you soon.